Most criminals street fight with anger. Thank you so much for your comment. So, about 15 years ago, I was heading to King Supers in the morning with my girlfriend to get some groceries and some breakfast. I was working night shifts at the time, and we had come back to our house and we went through a workout. We were training Kempo and Kempo techniques and lifting weights. And so when we finished that, we go King Supers and get our groceries. So we're going to King Supers and we go to pull into the parking lot, and there's a car that is getting ready to back out, but he's not actually moving. Reverse lights are on, but as we are starting to pass by him, he like slams on the gas and backs out really quickly. I slam on the brakes, put my hands up like this, and get all bug-eyed, and he starts yelling something, but our windows are up, so we can't really hear each other. And I just shake my head and I go forward into the parking spot, and he backs out and starts to circle around to leave the parking lot. So it happens pretty quickly, and so I immediately get out and I start looking up over the cars, seeing if I can get a license plate, make and model. And I knew the model pretty well, but I wasn't 100% sure. And I'm trying to see if I can get info on the car and the license plate and see if I need to be able to call it in, because the way he was driving and he accelerated really fast through the parking lot, I figured he was going to hit somebody. But he sees this, and so he decides, oh, this guy wants some. And he immediately recircles into the parking lot and pulls up right next to us, right as we're getting out of that car. So he pulls up and he looks right at me and he goes, "Hey, you got something to say? Or are you just trying to be tough for your girl?" And I looked at him and I noticed two things right away. Number one, of course, he's looking for a fight. Huge bravado coming off of him, and he's totally in the monkey mind space. But I notice he's got one hand up on the wheel, and he's got his other hand down, and I can't see it. I can see the shifter because he had rolled down the window, but his hand's not on the shifter. His hand is down. So I immediately noticed that and kind of worrisome about what's in his other hand. But I just look at the guy and I said, "You just almost hit us right here in the parking lot." And he says, "Doesn't matter. What you do is just move along your way. Don't try to get out of the car and act tough and look tough for your girl." And so I just look at the man and I said, "You know what? You have a good day, brother." And he gets this smirk on his face, like, "Yeah, I showed you," and puts it, hand on the shifter, puts it in drive and goes. And I'll never forget, I look back over at my girlfriend. She's got her hands in her pockets, and I know what she's got on her. I know what I got on me. But before we left, I put on this big blue sweater, like this knit big blue sweater, hides all the tattoos. And ironically, underneath it, I had a cut off gym shirt that said UFC right on the front of it. But, he doesn't see any of these things. All he sees is this guy in this big blue sweater. At the time, I had kind of long hair. It was down to about here, and my hair was down. So he's just seeing this guy who looks, well, maybe kind of yuppie-ish, and he thinks, well, I'm going to go show him and dominate him. And that's where that monkey mindset comes from, that mindset of I want to show and assert dominance. Having just worked out and just done a whole bunch of karate practice, I was feeling pretty strong, but I was worried about his hand down there, and I knew immediately, even if I could see both of his hands, I don't want to fight at all. And if I just appease the guy and say, "Okay, sure, you win," and he goes, well, then I win because I win every time. I don't have to throw a punch. So anyway, she and I are talking about it as we were walking through the store, and I remember thinking, and I mentioned to her about I couldn't see his other hand, and she said, "Yeah, I couldn't either." And she said, "But I got this on me." And I remember thinking about what I had on me, and all I kept thinking was, there's just more escalation. It's escalation on escalation. I don't want it to go there. I want it to go down. And so the angry guys don't actually scare me. Because usually if there's heightened emotion, you can kind of walk that back a little bit if you let them play the dominant role. That's kind of what they're doing. And as we've talked about before, oftentimes barking dogs are just barking dogs. They absolutely could bite, but they're probably not going to, because if they were going to bite, they just walk up and bite. And I'm really glad I didn't feed into the monkey mind, because unfortunately, a lot of guys have a hard time suppressing that. Somebody is yelling and being dominant like that. We tend to stick out our chest and push out our bravado and yell back. And we have this dominance thing back and forth. It's why, part of why it's called the monkey mind. But the angry guys, they don't generally scare me because it's not the ones you really got to worry about. It's the quiet ones you got to worry about. The guys that walk up and they, speak very nonchalantly or very calmly, like they got, their coffee and their newspaper, and they're walking up on Tuesday morning and they just take out a blade and they stick it in your side and say very calmly, "Give me your wallet and your keys and your cell phone. If you move an inch, I'm going to stab you." That guy scares me. That guy's done that kind of thing before. It wasn't his first time. It's habitual, and good chance he stabs you anyway. That calm mentality, or the not saying anything at all. This video is getting to be kind of long. I actually have two more things I want to say about it, but I'm going to make a second stitch just to keep it kind of a shorter video. Thank you so much for your comment. It reminded me of a couple of things.